Indian Wells 2026, predicting who will win the women's semifinals. Indian Wells 2026 is shaping up as many people thought. The two players arguably playing the best tennis on the WTA Tour appear headed to a clash in the final. Still, Aryna Sabalenka and Elena Rybakina have some work to do to get there. For Rybakina, Indian Wells has been mostly boom or bust. She won the title in 2023, but hasn't made it past the fourth round in any other years. Her win is one better than Sabalenka's, though, who has reached the final in 2 of the last 3 years, but has yet to take home the trophy. Again, though we aren't there yet. Both of the other players in the semifinals are playing brilliant tennis. That is especially true of 31-year-old Alina Svitolina, who is undergoing a career resurgence. She cannot be counted out of any match right now. Who will win the women's semifinals at Indian Wells 2026? Aryna Sabalenka versus Linda Noskova. Noskova has only faced one seeded player so far, and that was number 31 Alexandra Ila. Not that the Czech is without talent, but the 21-year-old certainly is. She just probably isn't ready to beat Sabalenka on a hard court. Noskova should be a real threat at Wimbledon, however. The Belarusian has entered 2 tournaments in 2026. She took the title in Brisbane and fell to Elena Rybakina in the final of the Australian Open. She is well ahead in the rankings and is likely to stay there for quite some time. She has yet to drop a set at Indian Wells, overpowering many of her opponents while showing some excellent court coverage, and she won't drop a set to Noskova either. Elena Rybakina versus Alina Svitolina. Whatever Svitolina did in the off-season worked. After struggling through the summer of 2025 when she was bounced out of the first round in her first match at the Cincinnati Open and US Open, she began this year with a win in Auckland, a semi-final run in Melbourne, and made the final at the Dubai Championships. She is back in the top 10 on the WTA Tour and playing some of the best tennis of her career. The issue is that she is facing a player doing the same. Elena Rybakina, who has moved up to number 2 in the live rankings, won the Australian Open and has 11 straight wins over top 10 players after defeating Jessica Pegula in the quarterfinals. When she is playing her best on a hard court, she is arguably the best player on tour. The guess is that she's in form versus Svitolina and wins in 3 sets. Indian Wells 2026, predicting who will win the women's semifinals. The desert air of California has always carried a special kind of drama in March. Beneath the palm trees and glowing desert sunset, the world's best tennis players gather at the BNP Paribas Open, often called the 5th Grand Slam. In 2026, the women's draw has once again delivered a fascinating semifinal lineup: Aryna Sabalenka versus Linda Noskova, and Elena Rybakina versus Alina Svitolina. Each matchup represents a clash of styles, generations, and mental resilience. The question tennis fans are asking is simple but intriguing: who will win and reach the final of Indian Wells 2026? To answer that, we need to examine the players' current form, strengths, weaknesses, and psychological edges. The road to the semifinals. The semifinal field this year reflects both experience and emerging talent. Sabalenka, the world number 1, arrived in the semifinals after defeating rising Canadian teenager Victoria Mboko. Meanwhile, Svitolina produced one of the tournament's biggest surprises by defeating world number 2 Iga Swiatek in 3 sets. Rybakina reached the semifinals after a strong win over Jessica Pegula, while Noskova continued her breakout run with a victory against qualifier Talia Gibson. With these results, the stage is set for 2 compelling semifinal battles. Semifinal 1, Aryna Sabalenka versus Linda Noskova. The power of the world number 1. Few players in women's tennis hit the ball with the same ferocity as Aryna Sabalenka. Her aggressive baseline game, massive serve, and relentless intensity make her one of the most intimidating competitors on tour. Sabalenka has been in excellent form in 2026. She entered Indian Wells with a strong win-loss record and the confidence of a player who consistently competes for major titles. Her strengths include explosive serve that produces many free points, powerful forehand that dominates rallies, aggressive return game that puts pressure on opponents. In fast conditions, Sabalenka can overwhelm opponents before they even settle into the match. However, her biggest vulnerability remains consistency. When her timing slips, unforced errors can accumulate quickly. The fearless challenger. Across the net stands Linda Noskova, one of the most promising young players on the WTA Tour. Noskova's rise has been steady but impressive. She has already reached multiple deep runs at WTA tournaments and has demonstrated that she can compete with the best players in the world. At Indian Wells 2026, she reached the semifinals after winning a tough 3-set match against Talia Gibson, marking her second WTA 1000 semifinal. Noskova's style contrasts with Sabalenka's raw power. Her game is built on solid baseline consistency, precise shot placement, tactical intelligence. Instead of overwhelming opponents, she prefers constructing points patiently. Yet there is one major challenge: experience in big matches. Facing the world number one in a semifinal of a prestigious tournament is a very different situation from earlier rounds. Match dynamics. This matchup will likely revolve around one central question: can Noskova absorb Sabalenka's power? If Sabalenka controls the rallies with her serve and forehand, the match could become one-sided. But if Noskova extends rallies and forces Sabalenka to hit extra shots, the Belarusian's error count might increase. Another factor is the psychological dimension. Sabalenka has played, and won, many high-stakes matches, while Noskova is still learning how to manage the pressure of big moments. Prediction. Despite Noskova's impressive run, Sabalenka appears to hold the advantage in almost every key category: power, experience, and big match mentality. Predicted winner: Aryna Sabalenka. Score prediction: 6-4, 6-3. Sabalenka's aggressive style should ultimately overpower the Czech youngster. Semifinal 2. Elena Rybakina vs. Alina Svitolina. If the first semifinal is about power versus youth, the second is about precision versus resilience. The silent assassin, Elena Rybakina. Elena Rybakina has become one of the most consistent elite players in women's tennis. With her calm demeanor and devastating serve, she often dismantles opponents without showing much emotion. At Indian Wells 2026, she reached the semifinals by defeating Jessica Pegula in straight sets. Her key strengths include one of the most effective serves on the WTA Tour, clean, flat ground strokes, calm and focused mentality. Rybakina thrives in conditions like Indian Wells, where the court rewards powerful, accurate ball striking. Another advantage is her experience in major tournaments. She has already won a Grand Slam and reached multiple big finals. The comeback story: Alina Svitolina. While Rybakina represents quiet dominance, Alina Svitolina embodies perseverance. Svitolina's journey back to the top of women's tennis has been remarkable. After time away from the tour, she has rebuilt her ranking and rediscovered the form that once made her a top player. Her victory over Iga Swiatek in the quarterfinals was one of the tournament's most dramatic moments. Svitolina's game is defined by exceptional defensive skills,